Chairman McGovern, who also chairs the caucus on hunger.
Well, thank you. And I want to take a moment to thank my friend from Minnesota, Congresswoman Omar, for leading the special order hour at such a critical time for our nation's children. Congresswoman Omar has been a champion for expanding access to universal school meals and ending childhood hunger, and indeed ending all hunger in this country and around the globe. And I want to recognize her for her leadership. Madam Speaker, you know, my two sisters are school teachers in the Worcester public school system in Massachusetts. You know, they remind me all the time that school meals are as important to a child's ability to learn as a textbook or a laptop. And they wonder all the time why Congress, why states, and why the state governments and the federal governments don't get that. And, you know, they see children show up to schools on Mondays hungry because they haven't eaten all weekend. And so it takes a while to get them the nutrition that they need so they can focus again. Because if you're hungry, you can't focus. And if you can't focus, you can't learn. And if you can't learn, you fall behind. It is that simple. They also tell me that Fridays are a tough day because those same children come to them and ask if there's any food that they can take home, not just for them, but for their families. You know, I have heard heartbreaking story after heartbreaking story of children who are food insecure, who are hungry in this country. And as you know, you ever meet a child, see a child who is hungry, it breaks your heart, and it is, and it quite frankly angers me, because we live in the richest country in the history of the world, and even before the pandemic, close to 40 million Americans didn't know where the next meal is going to come from. I tell people all the time that hunger is a political condition. I don't mean it's not a partisan condition. It shouldn't be a partisan condition. It is a political condition. And by that I mean we have the food, we have the resources, we have the infrastructure, we have the knowledge of what we need to do. We have everything but the political will. And as has been pointed out here today, that we are about to reach a hunger cliff at the end of June. Waivers are going to run out. Money is going to run out. And if we don't do something, millions and millions of children will lose their school meals, will lose their summer meals as well. You know, and during the pandemic, thankfully, schools received flexibility and funding to make sure their students got a healthy breakfast and lunch at school. This has been a lifeline for families and school districts facing rising costs and supply chain shortages. But we're coming to an end. And so all those safety measures that were put in place during the pandemic will expire. And I think what we're coming to appreciate is that those safety measures should have been in place even if there wasn't a pandemic. And so we can't go back to the days when close to 13 million kids went to bed hungry every night in this country. Again, with the group of leaders who are here on the floor, members of the Progressive Caucus, as well as working with Speaker Pelosi, Chairman Bobby Scott, Chairwoman Rosa DeLauro, working with Chairwoman Debbie Stabenow over in the Senate. We've been trying to figure out ways to extend the flexibility and funding needed to get healthy food to America's students. And I believe that we will get there. The amazing leadership of Speaker Pelosi will get us all together, and we'll find a way forward. And we will avoid this hunger cliff. Now, look it. I'm a liberal Democrat. I serve in this Congress, both in the House and Senate, with many conservative Republicans. And I understand that not everybody agrees on everything here. I, for example, want free universal school meals for every kid to be part of our educational policy, and I want it there forever. I commend states like California, Vermont, and Maine for taking a lead in their states. Their legislatures have passed universal meals for their students. I want Massachusetts to follow. I want every state to follow. But I get it. Not everybody shares my view. I also get that, in order to get anything to the President's desk, we're going to have to navigate through the Senate, which is always a challenge. Because in the Senate, you need 60 votes to have a cup of coffee, never mind pass a piece of legislation. And so, we're going to have to figure out what it is we can get done, in the next couple of weeks. And there are some who don't want as big a package as others, and there are some who are insisting on offsets, and there are some who are insisting on other things. Well, we're going to have to figure it out. And we're going to have to figure it out because our kids are important. They're 100% of our future, and we ought to treat them as such. And finally, one last point. America used to think big about solving problems like hunger. In 1969, we held the first and only White House conference on hunger. It was the same year we landed on the moon. It led to a major, that conference led to a major expansion of the school lunch program and the creation of the Women's, Infants, and Children program, among other things. And as a proud member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, I've long thought that it's time for America to think big once again, to solve problems like hunger, to think big the way we used to, not to manage problems, but to solve them. We have the food to end child hunger in America. Again, it's a matter of building the political will. I personally believe that food ought to be a fundamental human right here in this country and around the world. But I say this because I am thrilled that President Biden recently announced that he will host a White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health to bring together experts from across the country and all agencies within the federal government to create a plan not to manage hunger in America, but to end hunger in America. And it will be an opportunity for people with lived experiences to have their voices heard. Because sometimes we make decisions here, we don't talk to the people who are most affected by what we're trying to do here. So we have the opportunity to prevent child hunger, to make universal free school meals a reality. This is our moment to make it happen. In the lead up to this conference, members of Congress have the opportunity to host listening sessions to hear directly from local educators and families who benefit from free school meals. I encourage my colleagues to host these sessions and to transmit their findings to the White House so that the recommendations that come out of this conference reflect the power of school meals to change lives and improve nutrition among children. I encourage not just progressive members, I encourage moderate members and conservative members to do listening sessions in their district to hear about not only the extent of this problem, which is a costly problem, but hear about potential solutions so we can end hunger. So if you're interested, reach out to my office and we can point you in the right direction. But for now, let me again thank Congressman Omar for bringing us together at such a critical moment. There are some problems that we're faced with that I don't know what the solution is, but hunger is not one of them. This is a solvable problem that we can solve in a matter of a few years if we put our minds to it, if we work together. Let's do something big, something bold, something that will reflect the goodness of the people of this country and make a real difference, and maybe be an example for the rest of the world. With that, I yield back my time.